What's up, guys? It's Backchat TV, and I'm so happy to see you back again. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm going to say how I feel about this. Gervonta Tank Davis, after last night, I am sure he's one of the greatest fighters to ever live.
He's one of the greatest fighters to ever live.
What's going on, guys? It's Backchat TV, and I'm back with another video. So we just got finished watching the Frank Martin versus Gervonta Davis fight. It was a good fight while it lasted. Ended in, I think it was the 8th round. Gervonta Davis knocked Frank Martin out in the 8th round. I didn't actually make a prediction video. Surprise, surprise. I thought Gervonta Davis would win, but it's very easy to say that after the fact. But I didn't make a video because I thought that he would win. Not that I didn't rate Frank Martin's skills. I do think he is a somewhat skillful fighter, good footwork, athletic, all the things that he showed in the ring, to be honest. But I just didn't think that he had enough for Gervonta Davis. I didn't think he had enough punching power as well. Although a lot of people said that he was quite a powerful puncher, I didn't think that he had enough punching power for Gervonta Davis. I did think that he could pose some problems. I did think he would put in a good performance against Gervonta Davis because he's an athletic guy who does have some power, who can move around, good reflexes. I knew that he was going to kind of show up. I didn't think he was going to get knocked out in the first, second, third round or anything like that. So I did think it would be competitive, and it was. It was competitive. Frank Martin, I think he fought to his level, to his standard. Early on, he was doing the right thing. I think throughout the fight, he did the right thing. I think the last few rounds, when he stayed on the ropes too long, this is what allowed him to lose the fight, because Gervonta started to read him, started to realize that he was breaking down, and he started to kind of do the same thing all the time. Gervonta Davis will catch up to you. If you're doing the same thing, he starts to read it, and then he catches you like he did to Santa Cruz, and that's how he caught him with that uppercut. He started to read his position and see how he was kind of covering up and then trying to counter, and he caught him with the uppercut. Same thing with Frank Martin. He got too comfortable on the ropes. Gervonta was able to track him down. I think Frank Martin felt as if he could kind of just wait until he threw and then counter off the ropes. And he shouldn't have done that, because Gervonta changes up the angles of his shots. He doesn't do the same thing all the time. So if you stay still and he's got that power, and if you get it wrong, you get knocked out like what happened to him. So he should have kept moving. He should have kept it moving, kept countering while moving. I feel like he abandoned his jab after maybe the 6th round. He should have definitely kept jabbing and moving, circling out. It's funny because it kind of reminds me a little bit of Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, where Pacquiao was putting the pressure on Floyd Mayweather, throwing a lot of shots, and Mayweather kept it moving, but he didn't abandon his jab like the way Frank Martin kind of abandoned his jab to keep that pressure off. And if you look at, it's almost a carbon copy. If you look at Floyd Mayweather against Pacquiao, there was certain times when Floyd Mayweather kind of got a bit complacent, because for the same reason that Martin got complacent, because he was able to sometimes time Gervonta Davis, give himself some time him, and then come back with his shots and then circle out to the left. And he was able to do that with Gervonta sometimes. So that led him to be a bit complacent, that he knew Gervonta was going to come in, throw some shots, he could counter off the ropes and circle out and keep doing that, maybe tie him up a few times. And that's kind of what Floyd did against Pacquiao. Sometimes he'd be on the ropes knowing that he could block his shots and come back with a counter. But what happened? Floyd ended up getting caught when he stayed on the ropes, because Pacquiao hands were really fast. He throws a lot of shots, different angles. He might end his combination to the body, he might end his combination to the head. And Floyd was getting caught when he stayed on the ropes. When you're fighting a fighter like that, with a lot of hand speed and fire and power in both hands, it's very difficult to read them and count off the ropes. As opposed to fighting a one-dimensional power puncher where oh, that's his power hand, block his power hand, counter him, move out. When you got someone who is just got power in both hands, speed in both hands, and good timing, you have to kind of keep it moving. The way Frank Martin was keeping it moving. Same thing with Mayweather. It was almost like a carbon copy, When Mayweather got caught in the corner by Pacquiao, that's when he got hit and his corner told him, keep moving. And Mayweather came out, he didn't get caught on the ropes again. But Martin got caught on the ropes, waiting for his moment to block Gervonta's shot and counter. Gervonta knew that, and he threw a different angle shot which caught Martin. And the reason why he got caught is because he stayed stationary. He stayed stationary at the wrong time. I'm not saying you have to keep moving. You can stay stationary at certain times. There's times in the middle of the ring where Frank Martin was stationary, but he was able to implement his footwork because he had space. So you can stay stationary in that position because he was fast enough and has got quick enough reflexes to get out of the way and counter in the middle of the ring, which is what Frank Martin was doing, which is why he was winning the early exchanges and he was doing quite well. When he stopped doing that and he became a stationary target and he got himself stuck in the corner, it was all over. So it was the same thing that Gervonta Davis did to Santa Cruz when he caught him in the corner. It was a great performance by Gervonta Davis, and he beat a difficult opponent. Someone with a high IQ, good boxing skills, good timing, decent power. And Gervonta Davis is ticking all the boxes. But what I wanted to comment on, the reason why I showed a clip from Showbizz the Entertainer, shout out to Showbizz, I just wanted to show a clip from what he said about Gervonta Davis being the best fighter, not just in the world, but one of the best fighters of all time. This was a very big claim. And I think a lot of people, might think on the surface, this is a ridiculous claim to make. How can Gervonta Davis be one of the best fighters of all time? He hasn't even fought enough fighters of that caliber to be able to say that. It's a ridiculous statement to say that. It's too early. He hasn't fought, some tough competition, former champions like Lomachenko. He hasn't fought fellow master boxer Shakur Stevenson. He hasn't fought Devin Haney, which we've seen to have a lot more holes in his game than we thought. But even so, he hasn't given Ryan Garcia a rematch at without the weight clause. He hasn't fought a power puncher like a De Los Santos with fast hands, good timing, good pressure, someone who's going to match him for power. So this is also true. So we could kind of say that what Showbizz was claiming is extremely premature. But funny enough, I actually agree with Showbizz. I agree with him. And the reason why I agree, I'm not just jumping on the bandwagon. I think it takes a great analyst to see greatness in someone who hasn't achieved it yet. And I think on this occasion, that's what Showbizz is kind of done. Gervonta Davis, he's not a one-dimensional fighter. And that's why I see the same kind of thing that Showbizz has seen. I see the potential for greatness in him. Not just the best of this era, but, being up there with some of the best fighters in the world. He's been doing this since he was 7-8 years old. You can see the experience in him. He's only 30, I think. And you can already see that experience in him. You can see that he has many different ways to win. Although he likes to implement that power, you can see he has underrated boxing skills, good footwork. You can see that he's a good thinker. He changes angles, he changes the pace of the fight. One thing I see in him, why I would say that I see greatness or the potential for greatness, is that potential to adapt to situations, to adapt to fighters. It takes a great fighter to be able to change their style depending on, different things that fighters bring. I think Gervonta Davis has that. I think Floyd Mayweather had that. I think Terence Crawford has that. These real great fighters can change their game plan multiple times within a fight, even within a round. We saw Floyd Mayweather against Conor McGregor. he changed his game plan 3 times. We've seen, this is how you kind of spot greatness. If you look at Deontay Wilder had amazing knockout, more than we've ever seen anyone do in the heavyweight division. But it was always the same kind of style, which is why people started to call Deontay Wilder a one-trick pony. Despite his amazing, stunning knockouts, you could still see that frailty in him. You could still see that one-dimensional kind of aspect to his game. He looked to have a lot of flaws when somebody was able to push him backwards, and somebody was able to not be so easy to hit with the right hand, or maybe they had power or they had superior footwork. We saw him struggle. Even if he got the knockout in the end, we saw Deontay Wilder kind of struggle. But with Gervonta Davis, he's the full package, and that's why I think Showbiz is talking about seeing greatness in him. He's putting Gervonta Davis with the greats, Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, the greats. It's a great analyst who can kind of see this ahead of time. Now, some people would say, he hasn't achieved it yet, but like I said, it's a great analyst who can see greatness in somebody. It's because what Showbiz, I believe, and this is my view, is seeing in him is he's multifaceted, punching power, but he doesn't use it all the time, knows how to pace a fight, knows how to change a game plan when it's not working. There were times in this fight against Frank Martin when certain things perhaps were not working as good as he thought. He had that whole prison sentence issue and he was off for a long time. You could see ring rust. He was a few paces behind Frank Martin early on. He kept patient, great composure, which is another trait of a great fighter. And although he was losing the early rounds, he was gradually picking up the pace. I think when he felt that Frank Martin wasn't the biggest puncher, he made himself more available to lure Frank Martin in to throw in his hands more rather than just moving, because he knew that his plan was to really move a lot, jab and move, and so he wanted to present a target to Frank Martin, knowing that that would be an opportunity for himself to counter him. All this stuff is high level stuff. Another thing is that it's not easy to get a knockout just because you have power. Gervonta Davis sets up his knockouts, very strategic the way he does things. He's not just bulldozing you, throwing hard shots, He's doing a lot of things in there. If you look at how he beat Ryan Garcia, it was the same kind of thing, slipping shots. He makes himself kind of available on purpose, and just at the last minute, he'll slip, duck under, and that shot that comes underneath, which is kind of what which caught Ryan Garcia, that body shot. He kind of ducked underneath, that body shot right underneath the rib cage. Same thing with Frank Martin, a kind of shot that he didn't see coming from an awkward angle. It's not easy to do what Gervonta Davis is doing right now. Now, let me just give a little bit of the other side of the coin. There is some truth in the fact that he hasn't fought certain types of fighters yet. He hasn't fought a Shakur Stevenson yet. Shakur Stevenson has some of the best reflexes I've ever seen. Some of the best footwork I've ever seen. Shakur Stevenson will not give Gervonta Davis the chances that Frank Martin gave. I think Shakur Stevenson will box the way Frank Martin boxed in the first, second, third round, but he'll do it throughout the whole fight. And Gervonta Davis, he looked a little bit sluggish early on because he typically starts quite slowly. But I feel like he's able to quicken the pace up as the fight goes along and start to mount that pressure on fighters. It might not work with someone like Shakur Stevenson. We might see Gervonta Davis just being too many steps behind Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson never getting tired under the pressure. Because I got this feeling that Shakur Stevenson can keep up that movement for 12 rounds. He can keep moving for 12 rounds. He can keep getting out the way, playing with the distance for 12 rounds. He can keep Gervonta Davis at the end of a jab, throwing some shots every now and then and keep moving. Shakur Stevenson can do this. He done it against De Los Santos, a hard puncher, fast puncher who was coming at him with all sorts of shots, and he couldn't touch him. A lot of fighters say in the sparring that it's very hard to hit Shakur Stevenson. It's going to be very hard to make up the distance the way Shakur Stevenson controls distance with his footwork, with his positioning and his reflexes. It's not going to be as easy as Gervonta Davis had it with Frank Martin. So what I'm trying to say is I want to see Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Although people say that would be a boring fight because Shakur Stevenson will be running, I want to see how Gervonta Davis deals with that running. Because Gervonta Davis might end up in no man's land, not being able to close the distance, not being able to find that knockout shot on Shakur Stevenson, and Shakur Stevenson might just win by points and basically not outclass Gervonta Davis, but he just might not be able to catch up with him. That could easily happen with Shakur Stevenson. So I think Shakur Stevenson is definitely a threat. Lomachenko, that pedigree, those skills. We've seen him stop Kambosos, so he's kind of regaining that love for the sport. We already know that he's one of the most skilled fighters to ever step in the ring. We need to see Gervonta Davis against Lomachenko. We need to see how he deals with that level of skill. Now, personally, I'm almost ready to crown Gervonta Davis as a great in the history of boxing, but I need to see him fight some different styles. These are the fights I'd like to see Gervonta Davis fight. I'd like to see him fight Lomachenko. That's definitely going to be a step up. I'd like to see him fight Shakur Stevenson. That's a totally different style that I'd like to see how he deals with it. I'd like to see him fight Isaac Cruz again. I feel like Isaac Cruz is only getting better and more dangerous. I think that he was a good fighter when he fought Tank. Probably his toughest fight, but I think he's grown so much. I think he's learned so much from fighting Gervonta Davis. I think Isaac Cruz has got so much stronger since he fought Gervonta Davis. So that's a rematch I would absolutely love to see. I really rate Isaac Cruz. Like I said, some of the flaws that he had, I think he's improved a lot since that last fight with Gervonta Davis. And I think he would probably be one of the biggest tests for Gervonta Davis now. Garcia still looks kind of one-dimensional, to be honest. I think he probably, gets stopped again or loses again. But again, Garcia is another smart fighter. He has great attributes. I think he poses a problem for Gervonta because he kind of knows what Gervonta is going to do, and he's quick enough to get out of the way. And I want to see the way Gervonta Davis takes Garcia's power. In the first fight, there was a question mark because of the rehydration and stuff like that. So that's another fight. I think these 4 guys that I've got on the screen give Gervonta Davis the most difficulty. Sorry, did I say 4 guys? I meant 5 guys. I've got De Los Santos on there as well. He's a guy, an outsider who could really upset the apple cart, as they say. And I would like to see how he gets through these fights. I didn't put Devin Haney. I didn't put Devin Haney's picture up here just because I'm not sure where Devin Haney is right now after his loss to Garcia. But I would put Devin Haney there also. These skillful fighters. I feel like if Gervonta can beat Loma, can beat Shakur, I'm putting him up there as a great fighter already, because these fighters are also fighters that have a lot of different skills to their game. Loma has a lot of different skills to his game. Shakur certainly does. Garcia kind of one-dimensional, but again, he has things that he can do in there which can turn your lights out, so he's always dangerous. Isaac Cruz, like I said, he's just totally improved his game massively. He looks faster, stronger. I think he gives Gervonta even more trouble. And the big question mark is someone like De Los Santos. A guy fast, good reflexes, also a power puncher, also has the power to turn your lights out. I'd like to see how Gervonta Davis deals with someone else who has power also. So these are the fights I'd like to see him in now. I'm not saying he has to beat all of these guys for me to crown him as an all-time great. But this is the only question marks I have now. I want to see him against these kind of skilled fighters. before I can kind of go as far as Showbizz. But shout out to Showbizz. I do like the fact that he kind of put his name on the line and made a big, bold statement. And I'd have to say I agree at the moment. But you know what they say? Styles make fights. It doesn't matter how bad Shakur Stevenson looked in his last fight and how good Gervonta Davis looks in the recent win against Martin. It really doesn't matter. It's just the styles. Their style may not gel at all. Gervonta Davis might find that Shakur Stevenson doesn't have any power and he might just walk him down and just walk into his range and knock him out, because maybe Shakur Stevenson doesn't have enough power. Maybe Shakur Stevenson, will move throughout 12 rounds and pick Gervonta Davis apart. Maybe Shakur Stevenson never gives Gervonta Davis a chance to settle in the fight. Never stationary, never gives him the angles he wants. Makes it a really difficult, horrible fight to watch. Either way, I want to see this fight. I want to see him against Loma. I want to see a rematch with Garcia. I think Isaac Cruz deserves a rematch. Shakur Stevenson deserves a shot. Someone like Edwin de los Santos deserves a shot. And if Gervonta Davis kind of comes through some of these fights, I put him as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Let me know what you think. Is it a bold statement? I'm on to the next one.
Hey guys, thanks for watching my video, because if you didn't, it might have got really ugly for you. But since you did, I really appreciate that. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Backchat TV Sports. Do it now. I ain't got all day.